Hi guys, welcome to the Founder's Perspective, a podcast channel where you can hear the real hero stories and that are founders. Myself Kapil, your today's host, welcome Krish. Krish is a TEDx speaker, mentor, investor, as well as a founder of WhatIf Food. Currently, Krish has joined us from Singapore and he's from a very long time. He has been involved in nutrition and food segment industry. So we'll know more about it. So hi Chris, how are you doing today?
Hi, Kapil. Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing very, very well. Looking forward to our session.
Oh, that's good.
Let's get after it.
Yeah, sure. So Chris, first of all, why food? Like I saw just in your profile, like you have been in this food segment for a little bit long time and that all thing. So why you chosen food? Like what best you found it which other cannot see it?
Well, story is actually quite simple. First of all, I grew up in a family setting where we were farming dairy cattle. We had a butchery. We had a local setting in the community, in the village, to basically host in our restaurant hundreds, if not 1,000 guests on an ongoing basis. So I was born into essentially agro food, as you call it today, and I've always spent my life in it. But more recently, the situation is like that. Food security is of big concern, and if you look at the global impact of agri-food per se, one we need to recognize that about 2.6 billion people are making a direct income from agricultural as well as food activities on this planet. Now we currently are about 8 billion people, so 2.6 billion people is a massive chunk of the global population that actually is engaged in agri-food. So probably is one of the world's largest and biggest and most diverse industries that is out there. And out of these 2.6 billion people that are making a living off agricultural activities, we have about there are about roughly about 2 billion people who are literally the poorest of the poor. So smallholder farming communities with sometimes as little as just a few acres to farm and make an income and a living from. And therefore, it is an industry that needs a helping hand, particularly as to what has been happening over the past 100 years or so in that particular industry. So super excited to be in it because right now we are on a chasm, we are on a pivotal point within the industry where things are really shaken up because of the adverse impact on the planetary health that the industry leaves behind, as well as the impact modern food has on human health,
Right.
and um, and therefore super excited to be in that industry with literally almost like half a century of experience in it.
That is really good. And our listener will be excited to know the journey which you have just explained. But still, how you transform, like you have been in this particular industry for a long time, and there are people who are in this industry, but they cannot come to such a big scale. So what was the moment when you thought like, okay, now I have to convert it into this way of commercial packaging and move it out? How you have done that or how you decided that?
The journey is an exciting one. I had the opportunity to work in that industry as someone who was born into it, as an entrepreneur, and I have had this privilege to work for some of the world's largest organizations, multinationals, in fact. And through these three sort of experiences that I've gained, I got to understand a fair bit as to how the system works, what's going on behind the scene, and in particular, what's not working. And therefore, starting something afresh for me was not a question as to what is it that we do in order to attract the masses and be here on the market for a short period of time. For me, the question was, what is the right thing to do? How can we contribute to biodiversity? How can biodiversity help us to mitigate life on land, help farming communities to bring prosperity back and meaningful livelihoods into communities? How can we rejuvenate and restore the production capacity of all of this wonderful soil that feeds us at least 3 times a day? And how can we engage with consumers so that they are being replenished by the nutrients they need on a day to day basis rather than just being sent empty calories? And these are the exciting questions we asked ourselves when we got going with WhatIf Foods. So it is about the impact that one can make rather than the business that you create through it. So one doesn't exclude the other. In fact, the very DNA of the business that we have built is one that impacts while doing a great business. And that's just fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. That is really great. And as you mentioned about biodiversity being used as a key part, like in the what if food also. So, as coming to the what if food, first of all, I really say the name is really exciting, and like how you come to that idea, like a name, a question within a name, like this is a very much unique. I saw it out. So, how you came to that? What if food?
WhatIf Foods as a name is nothing but the true, authentic description of the organization. And what I refer to is before we launched our products to consumers, we were a science incubator. And as a science incubator, a food and architect science incubator, what we did is we continuously asked ourselves, so what if we do this and that? What could be on the other side the outcome? How can we impact through what if questions? And the true DNA and the technologies that underpin the business model of what if food has been the what if food question. And therefore, when we actually thought about giving our brand a name, we had like a short list, actually it was a long list of about 80 candidates as a name. And
Mhm.
then, you step back, you go to bed one night and you say, everybody wants to see something that is authentic. Well, we were a science company. That was our lead question continuously. So bloody hell, let's call it like that. So off we went and we call it What If Foods.
Okay, so it's something like something came up with a logic like we are something and we have to represent ourselves. And definitely, when I visit your website and saw the thing like how you are more focusing on reimagine and re-engineering the whole process and that all thing. So, would you like to give a bit brief about like as your whole working model so that our listener can understand what exactly is happening, what you are doing, and what is your overall business model in this.
So how much time do we got? Have we got? Have we got 5 hours? Then I go into detail.
uh,
But jokes aside,
a small crunch, like you can give a small crunch for detail, they
no, no,
will
no,
definitely visit your website
jokes
and
aside,
understand. Yeah.
jokes aside. Look, foundationally, sustainability as it's being practiced over the past 20, 30 years, since sustainability is on the front pages of corporate reports in the industry, is not working. It doesn't deliver the results that people are promising. And there are multiple reasons for it. So, therefore, sustainability as it is practiced today is simply not enough. And it is high time to regenerate what is broken. And therefore, the bottom line, the motivating call out for us at WhatIf Food is that we need to regenerate. So how do you do that? How can you regenerate from the ground up, as we call it? And we went about seeing that more than half of arable land, that is land that actually produces food for us, more than half of it is severely degraded already or degrades at a speed unprecedented in human history. Our records show that we today degrade land faster, 35 times faster than our records show. That is about 25 soccer fields on a minute basis. Every minute we lose that much of soil to degradation. If we
Okay.
keep on doing that, the big question is then how do you actually produce that food that you need in order to in 2050 feed close to about 10 billion people? How do we do this? How do we go about it? And therefore, we said we need to go back to the soil that actually produces the food, bring back the biodiversity on that broken land so that the soil can actually restore itself through various means that includes biochar, but also legumes like our bambara. And then from there, look at clever technologies, not in the IT sense of things, but clever food technologies to basically say, while old products have used refined raw materials, like refined starches and refined oils. We wanted to go and do it a bit different. We wanted to actually use the holistic entity, the innate capacity of feeding one through a legume called the Bambara groundnut and leave it together and then therefore produce food out of it. And last but
True.
not least, if you have a differentiated business model, you need to go out and talk about it. And hence the name, what if, people stop like you did. You did stop on LinkedIn and you reached out to me and said, hey, Chris, would you be able to come to a podcast? And here I am because of the work that my colleagues are doing. So
Definitely.
therefore, the business model is an end-to-end one. The business model starts from the ground up and looks at what consumers need in the 21st century.
Definitely. And as I visit and see, like, currently, like what I saw, like milk and noodles are the two segment which has been explored. So, like, I do saw like there is some nutritions and these benefits are there overall. And you have used bam nut, which is like a very much a new for it is not new but unknown to many people, like this can also be used or something like that. So can you just like to say a bit about your these two products, like noodles and milk, which is available, and what new you are planning to come up with, and how these can be overall benefit to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Let me start with noodles because in the previous past I've lived and worked and have been a founder of a different business in India, and I know how many instant noodles are being consumed on the subcontinent and beyond. And if you look at the impact that instant noodles have had since they got invented in Japan about 80 years ago by a gentleman called Momofuku-san, you
Okay.
can actually trace back to obesity being connected to that particular product in many, many developing countries. I'm not saying that instant noodles are responsible for obesity, no, but they're contributing to it. Why? Because essentially the classic noodles are deep fried, refined wheat flour. And that is a combination whereby you have hardly any nutrition in there, but you have a lot of calories. Maybe tasty, but
Mhm.
certainly not really fulfilling in terms of the nutritional supply that a human body needs. So we wanted to really put instant noodles on its head and redefine the way you make it. So we took the deep frying process out and replaced it with a clever technology that we have patented. And today we are actually combining flour, so it's wheat flour, as well as the Bambara groundnut, have totally taken out palm oil from the recipe and have developed a portfolio of nice tasting flavors as well as other ingredients in the dough like moringa to make it tasty, exciting, colorful, texture being uplifting. And those were the sort of aspects that we went about doing the right thing by replacing a product that nobody really needs in an instant noodle, which is frying oil, replacing it with a nutritious product called the Bambara groundnut that actually fixates nitrogen in the soil as well as does wonderful stuff for farming community. So that was the journey on the instant noodle side of things. And the other side, on you've asked me about the milk, how this came about. Well, it was the idea to basically say, look, in West Africa, a place
Yeah.
where the Bambara groundnut comes from. People are using the Bambara groundnut for thousands of years, among which were basically drink applications, squeezing out the goodness from it. I mean, in Asia, in places like China, soy milk has been around for a long period of time, and soy is also a legume. So, therefore, for us, it was a logical conclusion to basically explore the application called alternative milk. And a research project later, 3 years worth of effort, we got to a point where today we are producing it on large scale and hence have succeeded making a product that essentially is just made with three real ingredients: water, the Bambara groundnut, and a little bit of a vegetable oil that we add in for its formability. And that's it. The rest is all clever science and technology behind it. The motivation is all about bringing the right nutrients to the consumers as well as doing good to the soil, because only once the soils are being kept well, communities will thrive. And that is the entire idea.
Definitely. And listening to your thoughts, it looked like, what if food really need a good team setup, which include people on field, people who know the technology, people who know the market or something like that. So can you tell a bit about the team you hold, like which all domains you hold in-house, which all domain you outsource, or which all you use some third-party setup, how this whole ecosystem of team management is done here?
So I think the most important thing are two extreme ends of what we call the value chain. The value chain starts with, as I say it over and over again, it starts with the soil,
Mm-hmm.
starts with growing the right crops in the right fashion. And here we are partnering with a foundation that is headquartered out of Switzerland called the Pond Foundation. It is Scott Poynton who leads it. And he has been the gentleman on the ground in West Africa, particularly in Ghana, who has spearheaded our efforts there together with our other partners that we reach out, that we use, and that we interact with for our outreach program as well as our agricultural activities. On the other extreme are people such as Peter Wenström, who has been that particular gentleman who turned Oatly's brand position around to what you see it to be today. You know, Oatly today is a lifestyle product, and before Peter put his hands on it, it was him. It was essentially a health product. So from a health product, boring, it became a lifestyle product. And
Right.
Peter, with his team around the world, has been an instrumental part and a dear advocate of what we're doing. And for all the folks who are listening, go and check out these two gentlemen, Peter Wenström as well as Scott Poynton. They are advocates. They are dear partners. They are mentors, and they keep us a check. And then we have people, colleagues of mine, who come in and don't shy away of learning new skills. You know, we have food scientists that were educated in universities and run marketing programs today, and vice versa. We have people who have just a huge passion for food and come in and join us and take over, you know, things like logistics and other things. So it's about getting the right people on the bus, finding the right seats for them, and then start driving the bus. And it is that motto that we are using at WhatIf Foods once it comes down to our colleagues. And so far, so good, I have to say.
No, definitely. Like, when you have a good team and if everyone have the same vision to achieve the same summit, it definitely makes sense and everyone will definitely have the same passion. So now what I want to, or our listener would like to know, like, because FMC, you are in right now in the nutrition and segment that is almost like FMCG domain where, milk, noodles, these are very fast consuming things and they already have an established brand. So, like, how you manage this level of marketing? Like, what marketing strategy you used? Like, have you done any team up or you did any direct marketing? What was your initial steps in the marketing segment in it?
I guess it is a very organic way of going out and talking to people. And one needs to be humble with regards to the development stage of any young company, startup company for that matter. And I'm saying humble because you're thinking that what you're saying is being understood by others. Then you go out with a message people don't understand because they come from a different domain or use an industry jargon that people don't understand and things
Right.
like that. So we had our fair share of learning. And if you go back and scroll through, for example, my feed on LinkedIn, you will find that we were talking a different language, or we used a different copy, as it is known in marketing. We use a different copy than we use today. Foundationally and fundamentally, we have not changed our core DNA. The activities have been refined as well, but they were doubled down on them. But actually, essentially, making sure that our copy is understood is an ongoing learning process that people can only, start implementing if one has a humble approach to it. Because if you think that you have invented everything, then you might get left behind by a message that is not understood.
Right.
And my advice to others who are out there and trying to launch a product, just listen to your consumers, listen to your customers, and try to understand the way they understand you, and become a better version than you were yesterday, and then you are on the right track.
So, while listening to your consumer, have you ever felt like taste over health, a general people prescription, is a bit of hurdle for you, or that is the opportunity?
Um, the, well, there are so many answers to that question. First of all, typically there's an indulgent occasion. People are eating 3 times a day. People are eating to get going, and then there are occasions where people really indulge. There's a different occasion if you think about eating something over lunch break while you're busy in an office versus you go to a wedding and you're eating to indulge and celebrate, right? It's a different occasions. So there's a different mindset connected to it. And then there are different categories that people are eating through. Like, for example, if you look at a chocolate bar, you might not be really worried about the health impact of it because at the end of the day, you know you're buying something very unhealthy, but you're eating it because you want to indulge in it, right? So therefore, the obstacles to overcome is to make healthy food, if there is such a thing, because I don't think there's healthy foods. There is just a healthy diet, which is one of being huge diverse. But every dish, every meal we are taking, if it is not crunchy, if it is not full with colors and exciting flavors, people won't come back to it, irrespective of how healthy it is for their own bodies or how good it does for the planetary well-being. Irrespective of that, they will not come back and buy you a second time. So, on the forefront of, let me call it, the right eating habits, diversified eating habits, on the forefront, it has to be different, has to be a diversity, has to be a diversity of flavors and textures and colors in order to find excitement in there. If you would to eat our noodles, you may like one, but you don't may like the other. And
Yeah,
therefore, it doesn't really matter. Go to that flavor that you like the most and indulge in it and enjoy it. So here is how we have approached it. We haven't approached it in necessarily from a health point of view because there is no healthy food. There's only a healthy diet, and that must be diverse, driven by plant-based eating. Driven by your fruits and vegetables and your proteins, ideally coming from plant sources. You can have your meats every now and then, throw it in, no problem, but then do it in moderation and you would be well off. Today, it is just a matter that these sort of healthy diets, that they are diets that are based on diversity, are typically more expensive than quick service restaurants, as they are called in the industry, junk food, others call it. And that's a sad state of our industry. And I encourage everybody to basically pay attention to that fact that diversified eating is the right way of eating.
definitely. And I totally got a new learning here. Like, we should not never say like a healthy food. Healthy diet is the right term to say because it involves multiple things when you have a diet, and it need to be healthy overall. So now,
That's absolutely correct.
yeah, that's a good thing to learn for me as well as for all the listeners and everyone to notice. Now, we just want to know a bit more about your as personally also. Like, you are an investor and you are like a mentor. So, which all segment of industry you see as an opportunity where you have invested or you mentored the people or mentored the upcoming audiences?
Gosh, I'm an investor in our own businesses. I'm investor in agri-food. There might be other industries out there that might be interesting from an investment point of view, but I'm definitely not an investor. I'm not a structured investor that runs a portfolio. I'm not. My heart and soul is with agri-food. My heart and soul is with regeneration. And I think it is the right thing to do because at the end of the day, look, at the end of the day, what really matters to us is, and what matters to me in particular and to my family especially, is that we are here to share the lust for life that we were able to see and enjoy over the decades or so by traveling the world and gather all of this knowledge and accumulate our lust for life. And we believe it is the right time for us to share it with all those who are keen to regenerate the agri-food industry from the ground up so that today's youth, as well as future generations, have a planet that is worthwhile being on. And that is what this is all about. And if you have such a purpose in mind, why would I wander off with my dollar to an industry that I don't understand? There's so much work to be done within my industry that I would not wander off. As
No.
simply as that, couple. I may have disappointed you, but that is the reality.
No, no, I totally understand. But I agree with one of your point. Like, this particular segment or this particular industry, which really is the heart. Like, people need food to live. There is no alternative to that anytime in coming to the future also. And this really, is not that much tapped. It has some good sake of opportunities and something coming up. So coming to the industry and that all thing, I'm just wrapping up the long questions with my last question. Like, because you see, from our perspective, like from tech perspective, I see like there are many IoTs and AI and these type of technologies coming up. So does these help you in your segment also to taking the right decision or growing the right field, or may help in the field to grow up?
That's a very, very interesting question, and thanks for asking it, because it gives me an opportunity to share my perspective. Any technology, for that matter, in particular, the Internet of Things, applications per se, anything that is connected to, for example, even blockchain, any of such technology, if it is put on top of the wrong system,
Hmm.
it just creates more harm than good, because you are doing more efficiently things, but you're doing the things more efficiently wrong. And that should not be the case. So technologies per se are not the toolbox that we need in order to create a better world. We need to start doing the right thing, and that cannot be based that doing the right thing needs to be based on foundational questions that take biological systems and system thinking at its core. And that includes soil thinking, community well-being in farming communities as well as consumers, as well as the life around in an organization. Whatever technology you put on top of it has to be an enabler of doing the right thing. And whether or not that is then being an app, an ERP, a blockchain, or whatever it might be, is a secondary question for me. I just fundamentally ask the question, are we doing the right thing before we put a technology on top of it? Does
Definitely.
that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So your perspective is, first it should be a right thing, and then with the help of technology, if you can do it more efficiently, more optimally, then it is good. But doing the right thing is a base thing which has to be done, and we should not make it more complex for end user to use it out. That is the total I gain
That's
from.
correct.
That is really good.
You got
So
it.
now I'm moving to our next segment. It is a very small segment, but it will be more interested because people will like to know more about you. It's going to be a rapid fire. You just need to give a quick answers, and it's not going to a long. So
Okay.
yeah. So your favorite social media platform.
My favorite social media platform. Gosh, there are so many out there in the meantime that I really can't pinpoint on any social media as being my favorite. However, what I'm telling you is that my most preferred interaction with human being is being out there in the community, in a meeting ground, in a community under a tree, and talking to the elders of a community, because you can learn within no time tons of and decades worth of experience, and that's what I really enjoy the most.
No, that is really good. And actually, community building is one of the best which can be done on any of these media platform, and that is really core part of it. So, your role model, like whom you consider as your role model or something you really see as an inspiration.
Role models. Oh gosh, another one. Huh? Role models for me are all those that have made a significant change to humanity. People that have been able to transform the lives of millions. Role model for me is one like Gandhi would be in India. He has taken on a massive journey towards a better place. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. These are
Really?
all names that they are out there that basically have transformed for good. And I do read about them every now and then and try to see what they have done for me to pick up one or two ideas.
No, no, definitely. And actually, this goes with your philosophy also, because your company and your ideology is also to make something good for a whole new generation or whole long people around. This is not in that case it match it up. What you do for relaxing, like if you like to just relax and need a peace, what you like to do in that?
What I do for relaxing, I have two hobbies. One is I enjoy a good battle on a tennis court. I do like tennis, and I go out
Mhm.
and play as much as I possibly can. And secondly, I do like science, and I listen to scientific achievements and advancements, and in particular physics. That fascinates me. I'm not an expert there, but it fascinates me. It also gives always a different perspective, and that takes also my mind off into a different dimension. And I do enjoy these two things. One
Definitely.
is physical, and the other one is mental stimulation.
Yeah. So that is really good to know. Lastly, I just want you to, to advise to our listeners if they are looking to explore the food industry, like from where they should start, what they should think, because, this domain is not taught everywhere. This domain is not that much, looking sexy. Like, there are not so much branding there, but still, I would like to have your few words to our listener who are looking to explore and make this domain as their future opportunity.
Well, I guess I've forgotten the gentleman who has mentioned it. It was is a very important investor on Wall Street who said a couple of decades ago that the uh, the people who will be able to drive tractors in future will make millions, and those who are building technologies will be the farmers of today. Something along these lines.
Okay.
And I can guarantee you that he is right. We can already see it happening. There is a power shift towards the industry. If the farming community stops growing the food that we consume on a day-to-day basis, then things will change. And particularly in 2022, coming out of the COVID crisis, with a raging war in Europe, the food prices have shown their volatility. The food prices have shown their vulnerability, and the system was close to the brink of collapse. And therefore, the moment stomachs get empty and people become hungry, you have riots on the roads. You know that every now and then you experience it also in Delhi. People, the farmers, go on the street, and then
Definitely.
communities get worried about the supply. So if there are folks out there who listen to you, then and they have interest to explore the food industry, my advice is in the food industry, you have all skills required in order to make supply chains work. Whether or not you're an IT person, every every uh, every company needs an ERP program. Every company needs an outreach on social media. Every company today needs a branding activity. And if you are a scientist that comes in left field, bring in your knowledge about system thinking into the industry and find your way into the agri-food domain and horizon. Find your passion there. Don't go for the quick win. Go and find your passion for what's the right thing to do, and then double down on it. As another pointer, go and explore the SDG 17, and in particular explore and drill deeper into SDG 15, which is life on land. And here you will probably find enough inspiration as to what one can do in order to create a better system thereafter, and with massive opportunities that might be worth $1 trillion. And therefore, um, don't be shy if you are not directly from the industry. The industry needs all skills that you can imagine. So knock on the door, I would say.
Definitely. So, guys, this was Chris, and he really has given us a good detail about a new segment of industries. Definitely knock the door, check the industry, and see how it give you a passion and work around. So, with this, Chris, we would like to thank you for your time, for giving us all these insights and how this thing is work. Definitely, you may not know now, but this will really give inspiration to many people. And to my listeners, please go and check WhatIf Food, how they are doing, how they are regenerating, check their model. Everything is available on their website, and this will really give you a new excitement and inspiration. With all, I would like to thanks Chris. Chris, anything you want to say? Not?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. And I hope I see you soon, either on my LinkedIn, our homepage, anywhere on social media, or do reach out and send me an email. Until then, thank you very much and goodbye.
Okay, thank you for this.